The stars were quiet. The wreckage of an old Terran warship floated slowly near the edge of a dying system. Broken metal spun like dead leaves. No one had come here for centuries. No one even remembered what this place was, but something inside. The wreckage was still alive. A small cryopod, dull, dented, forgotten, suddenly blinked. One red light, then another. Inside the pod, a man's frozen face twitched. His fingers moved. A soft hiss escaped as warm air filled the chamber. The pod had followed its last command. Wake him when it's safe. His name was Captain Dorian. Kale, and he had been asleep for 300 years. The pod opened with a sharp click. Cold steam rushed out. Dorian gasped and sat up, coughing hard. His muscles ached, his vision blurred. His skin was pale and dry. He looked around, confused. Where was the crew? Where was the command bridge? Where was the war? Cryo recovery. Complete, said a weak voice. It was the pod's AI, Dorian. Groaned and pulled off the breathing mask. Status report, he said. Processing, processing. He tried to stand, but his legs collapsed under him. He crawled out of the pod and saw nothing but silence. Black space, broken ships. Empty. Stars. Where is everyone? He whispered the A, I replied slowly. Current galactic time is 3 centuries beyond your last memory, Captain. Dorian froze. His heart began to pound. What did you say? Time in stasis. 298 years, 6 months. 12 days. He closed his eyes. Everyone he knew, his crew, his family, Earth was gone. Time had stolen everything from him. I was supposed to die in that battle, he whispered. The I paused. You were pulled into an escape pod during ship collapse. Systems activated long-term cryo to preserve your life. No rescue signals were detected. Dorian crawled to the pod console and pressed a few buttons. A flickering map appeared. The galaxy's current state was unrecognizable. Borders had changed. Alliances were gone. Entire star systems were marked as dead zones. What happened to the Terran Alliance? Terran records. No longer available. Majority of databases. Lost. However, conflict zones persist. Multiple ongoing battles across sectors. He frowned. The war didn't end? Negative. New factions emerged. War shifted underground. Old enemies, still active. Dorian's hands shook. The war had changed names, faces, borders, but it never truly ended. He looked out the pod's cracked viewport. In the distance, a planet with a gray surface floated alone. No cities. No lights. A graveyard world. He stared at it for a long time. Then he spoke clearly, like a soldier again. Prepare signal. Emergency beacon. Old Terran frequency. The AI hesitated. Captain, this may attract hostile forces. I'm counting on it. The AI complied. Moments later, a pulse of light shot into the stars. A code not seen in. Centuries now echoed across the galaxy. Far away, in another system, a young alien officer stared at a blinking red dot on her console. She called to her commander. Sir, we just received a Terran signal. He laughed. That's impossible. Terrans have been gone for centuries. But the officer didn't laugh. She zoomed in on the signal. It's a war code, she said. One used only by human captains. In the last days of the Zarn War. Back in the wreckage, Dorian sat in silence. His body still weak, but his mind alert. The stars were darker than he remembered. Colder. And yet, something deep inside him. Stirred again? He didn't know what galaxy he had woken up to. But he did know this. The war wasn't over. And maybe, just maybe, they still needed him. The beacon pulsed once. Then again. It was a slow, Deep signal, an old Terran war code that hadn't been used in 300 years. And yet, someone saw it, thousands of light years away, on the edge of a secure Galactic Coalition station. A low-level alien officer named Vilari owned. Her job was boring. Just watch screens and report anything unusual. She never expected anything unusual. Until a red signal appeared on her console dot, she blinked. The signal was ancient. It shouldn't exist. It came from a sector long abandoned. Graveyard sector. No ships, no trade, no life, and definitely no humans. Vel A. RI tapped her screen. Commander Tren? You need to see this. A tall, armored being entered the room, frowning. If this is another false alarm. It's not, Vilari said. She showed him the signal. He froze. That's a Terran military code. He said slowly. How? I don't know, she said. It's real. I triple-checked. It's not a replay. It just activated now. Commander Tren stared at it. That's impossible. Humans vanished centuries ago. No one's used those codes since the last Terran fleet burned over Varnic, Vilari whispered. And who's sending it now? Across the galaxy, old enemies stirred. In a dark war room on a shadow world. A group of strange, hooded aliens gathered. Around a circular screen. The beacon is active, one said. Who dared unlock it? Asked another, voice sharp. A third one leaned closer. It doesn't matter. He must be silenced. They all turned toward a fourth figure, half flesh, half machine, who stood silently. This was Sither, one of the last living enemies from the Mai. Original Terran War. Once a commander, now a puppet of shadow forces. His eyes glowed faint red. He's alive, Sither said. Kale has returned. You're sure? They asked. I remember his signature, he replied. We failed. To kill him before. We won't fail again. Back in the cryopod wreckage, Captain Dorian Kale waited. He had no idea if his signal would be heard or answered, but he didn't wait long. The soft hum of an engine echoed in the vacuum. He looked up through the viewport. A sleek black vessel was approaching. Not a Terran ship. Alien. No visible markings, and it wasn't broadcasting any identification. Unknown vessel detected, the AI said. Dorian narrowed his eyes. Friendly? Unknown. The ship stopped just above the wreckage. A thin beam of light scanned his pod. Then a voice came through the comm. Identify yourself? It said. Cold. Robotic. This is Captain Dorian Kale of the Terran Alliance, he answered. Serial ID 847 Aleph. Status, survivor. There was silence. Then the voice replied, prepare for extraction. Dorian was pulled aboard. Two armored figures waited inside. Their faces were hidden. Their weapons ready. No greetings. No salute. No emotion. He stepped off the platform and looked around. The inside of the ship was cold and clean. Too clean. He felt it instantly. This was not a rescue team. This was a trap. They led him to a dark chamber with a single chair. Dorian sat slowly. A tall figure entered. Not alien, not human. Something in between. Eyes gray and glowing. You should not exist, the figure said. Dorian stared at him. You know who I am. I know what you were, he replied. A captain. A symbol. A weapon. Dorian leaned forward. And who are you? Another piece of the war that never ended. The figure smirked. The war never ends. It only changes shape. Suddenly, a hidden door opened, and someone stepped in. A girl. Human. Young. Maybe 20. Pale skin. Silver eyes. She wore simple clothes and no armor. But her presence froze the room. She looked at Dorian and spoke softly. They sent me to kill. You, she said. Dorian didn't move. But I'm not going to. she added, because if you're really Captain Kale, then you're the only one who can save us. Captain Dorian Kale stared at the girl with silver eyes. Her words echoed in the silence. They sent me to kill you, but I won't. She stepped closer. You don't know me, she said, but I know you. You're not just a name in history. Books, you're a ghost. A legend, the last captain who stood when Earth burned. Dorian's eyes narrowed. And you are? My name is Lyra, she said. Born in exile, raised by rebels, trained by spies. She paused. And we've been waiting for you, for a very long time. Outside the interrogation room, alarms began to flash. The soldiers guarding the corridor drew their weapons, shouting. In confusion, that something had entered their systems, that lights went out. Walls flickered. A voice echoed through the ship's speakers, a corrupted Terran voice. Unit Eclipse. Online, Lyra pulled Dorian by the arm. We don't have much time. That voice, it's part of the old war code embedded in your DNA. The ship you're on is waking up. What ship? Dorian asked. She smiled. Not this one, the one buried under it. As they ran through the dark hallways, Dorian began to see signs, scratches in the walls, odd flickering lights, panels. That didn't match the design. This vessel wasn't just a collector's ship, it was a shell, hiding something older. Something Terran. They reached a deep shaft. Lyra threw open a control panel. Inside was a narrow lift manual, rusted, but working. Where does this go? He asked. To your past, she said, and our future. They descended for 2 minutes before reaching a hangar. Dorian's breath caught. There it was. A Terran strike cruiser half covered in dust, but intact. The Eclipse Prime. His ship. The ship that was reported destroyed at the end of the war. Dorian stepped forward slowly. The ship's lights flickered. The ramp lowered with a deep hiss. It recognized him. Lyra stayed behind. Go. It's yours. Dorian turned. Come with me. She hesitated. You trust me? I just woke up 3 centuries too late. And I'm standing in front of a warship I thought was gone. Trust is all I have. She nodded and followed Dot inside the Eclipse Prime. The air was cold but breathable. Systems came to life around them. Screens blinked. Consoles lit up. The main AI greeted him. Welcome back, Captain Kale. Command priority reactivated. Dorian gripped the edge of the command chair. Show me the war. A star map appeared. Red zones, burning systems. Dozens of planets under occupation. Refugee paths. Ghost fleets. It was worse than he imagined. The Terran Alliance was gone, but fragments remained, humans living on the run, hiding in the shadows, helping other species resist the growing power of a secret force. A force no one had ever named, only whispered. The directive. Lyra pointed to a flashing system. That's where we're going next. There's a human outpost in hiding. They need help. If we can save them, maybe others will join us. Dorian nodded. Then we give them something to believe in again. The Eclipse Prime lifted from its hidden dock. The false shell above cracked open. The enemy ship above it, hacked and confused, couldn't stop the launch. In moments, they jumped into warp. Meanwhile, far away on a dying moon, a tall figure stood in front of a broken statue. The face of the statue was human. One eye cracked. One arm missing. An alien creature stepped out of the shadows. He's awake, it whispered. The tall figure nodded. Then the game begins again. He reached down and picked up a small Terran badge from the dirt. Let's see, he said with a smirk, if the last hero of humanity remembers how to fight. Asterisk, the stars outside flashed like lightning as the Eclipse Prime jumped through warp space. Inside, Captain Dorian Kale stood in silence, staring at the glowing galaxy map. Red dots covered most of the screen. Enemy control zones. Blue? Only 3 small dots remained. Is this all that's left? He asked. Lyra nodded. 3 cells, scattered, hiding, all waiting for help. Dorian clenched his jaw. They won't wait long. I'll give them more than hope. As they approached the Ivarus system, the ship began to shake. Interceptor drones detected. The AI said calmly. A swarm of black enemy drones closed in fast, blocking the narrow asteroid. Corridor leading to the human outpost. Lyra ran to the weapons console. Too many. We can't shoot them all. We don't have to, Dorian said. He opened a hidden panel beside the captain's chair. Inside was a manual override key, something I could fake. He turned it. The ship growled. A secret weapon. System unlocked. Spinal plasma lance armed. Lyra's eyes widened. That's illegal, Dorian smiled. So was surviving. The ship fired. A massive beam of blue fire tore straight through the drone cloud, burning everything in its path. Silence returned. They reached the outpost hidden inside a hollow asteroid. Lights flickered on. 4 small ships flew out to meet. Them, weapons charged. This is Outpost Sigma, came a nervous voice. Identify yourself. Dorian answered calmly. Captain Dorian Kale, Terran Alliance, authorization code Omega Black. The voice stuttered. That code is over 300 years old. I know, he said. That's why it still works. Inside the asteroid hangar, dozens of humans and aliens stood in shock as Dorian stepped out of the Eclipse Prime. Some gasped. Others whispered his name like a myth. An old soldier limped forward, gray hair, cybernetic leg. He saluted with tears in his eyes. Sir, I never thought I'd see the day. What's your name? Dorian asked. Lieutenant Rel, my grandfather. Fought under your command. He told stories? I didn't believe them. Dorian placed a hand on his shoulder. Now you will. Later that night, inside the command chamber, Rel opened a dusty metal case. Inside were files, real paper files. Old, fragile, but priceless. What is this? Lyra asked. The locations of Terran survivors, Rel said, and something more. A rumor of a fleet. Dorian leaned forward. What fleet? A hidden one, Rel said. Before Earth. Fell, your people scattered ships across deep space, programmed to sleep until a human command voice called them. Dorian's eyes narrowed. How many? Rel looked up. We don't know. But if they're real, they could change everything. The next day, Dorian, Lyra, and a small team took a scout ship to the far edge of the system. There, buried in the ice of a dead moon, was a signal beacon just like the one from Dorian's cryopod. Only this one was bigger. And a live dot as they landed. The ice cracked. A giant steel structure rose from below. A hangar opened. Inside, ships. Dozens of them. Terran warships. Paint chipped. Engines frozen. But waiting. Still powered. Holy stars, Lyra whispered. It's real. The Eclipse fleet. Dorian stepped into the lead vessel's bridge. The lights blinked on. Captain Dorian Kale detected. Command accepted. One by one, the ships responded. They had been waiting for him. Far away. On a command ship of the enemy faction, Sither stood before a dark council of alien generals and corrupt human traitors. He found the fleet, he said. One general hissed. It was only a myth. No longer, Sither said. He is no longer a survivor. He is a threat. Another asked, what do we do? Sither turned, eyes burning. We erase him. Hook. At exactly 3:17 ship time, the lights dimmed on every ship in the Eclipse fleet. No warning, no sound. Then a whispering voice spoke from the darkness. Dorian Kale. We remember you. Dorian jumped from his bunk, grabbing his sidearm. AI, report. The system replied in a flat tone. Security breach. Unknown signal has entered mainframe. Origin. Classified. Lyra burst into the room, her face pale. They've found us. In the command room, screens flashed red. The faces of the shadow enemy filled the monitors, masked, distorted, voices laced with venom. One figure stepped forward, cloaked in black armor with no insignia. He said only one thing. You woke the past. Now we end your future. And then, silence. But something had been left behind. A message. Coordinates. Later, Dorian, Lyra, and Rel stood around the main holotable. It's a trap, Rel said. Lyra nodded. Obviously. But why send it to you? Dorian stared at the blinking dot on the map. Because they want me to come. And they think I will. Are you? Lyra asked. He nodded. Yes, but not alone. Before launching, Dorian inspected the fleet. Engineers reactivated sleeping weapons. Droids painted hulls. Soldiers trained. Even the old ships began to look alive again. But deep down, something was wrong. Someone was watching. That night, Lyra sat alone in the mess hall, staring at a holoimage of her younger self, a soldier with fire in her eyes. Now she only saw shadows. Voice behind her broke the silence. You weren't meant to survive either, said a soft, cold tone. She turned quickly and froze. A woman stood in the doorway. Human. Beautiful. But wrong. Skin pale as frost. Eyes glowing faint red. Dressed in old Terran armor, but twisted. Corrupted. I know you, Lyra whispered. The woman nodded. I was once like you. But then I learned the truth. Earth didn't fall. It was abandoned. They fought. Tables flipped. Blasters fired. The shadow woman moved like lightning, inhuman, perfect. Lyra was strong, trained, but not enough. Just as the assassin raised her blade, Dorian arrived, firing once, twice, center mass. The woman staggered, then smiled, and vanished in black smoke. She wasn't real, Lyra gasped. A projection? No, Dorian said. A shadow construct. They're testing us. Later, Dorian accessed the encrypted logs from the Eclipse Prime's deep core. Old files from the last days of the Terran War. They told a hidden story. Not everything had been destroyed. The war had been lost. Not by force, but by betrayal. Someone inside had turned against Earth. Someone who now led the shadows. And that someone was once his friend, Commander Rael Varys. Rel stormed into the room. Sir, the scout ship we sent to the coordinates returned. Dorian stood. What did it? Find? Rel handed him a small chip. Footage. They loaded it. The screen showed a dead world-ruined cities, broken statues of human leaders, and in the center, a message burned into the stone. Kale, come alone, or watch them die. Then the camera turned. A row of prisoners. Humans. Wearing rebel uniforms. Bound. Weak. Afraid. One of them looked directly into the lens and whispered, Captain Kale, please. Then the screen went black. Dorian didn't speak. His hands shook. His face turned hard. They want a war? He said slowly. Then we'll give them one. Hook. At the edge of a dying star, 1,000 ships lit up the darkness. Some were old. Some barely flew. But all flew under one banner now. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy whispered the same word again. Terrans. On the command bridge of the Eclipse Prime, Captain Dorian Kale stood tall. His voice echoed through the ship. This is not just a mission. This is the moment we return. The crew listened in silence. We've been hunted, forgotten, lied to. But not anymore. The enemy wants me to come alone. I'm not going alone. I'm coming with all of you. The fleet was ready. Hundreds of Terran warships, old stealth corvettes, refitted destroyers. Even ancient battlecruisers pulled from. Junkyards now flew strong again. But Dorian knew ships alone wouldn't win. He needed strategy. He needed surprise. Aye, he said. Load Operation Revenant. The AI hesitated. Warning, Revenant was marked for last resort use only. Aye? No, he said. It's time. Lyra looked over. What is it? He answered, something we built when we thought we'd lose everything. A way to fake our death and still win. Hours later, the fleet junked. But not all at once. It split. 3 directions. 3 signals. One real, the enemy would never know which one carried the real Dorian Kale. In the shadows of the ruined world, enemy forces gathered. Towers with dark banners. Anti-air cannons. Drone swarms. And in the center Scyther, the corrupted ex-commander waited on a black platform, surrounded by tortured prisoners. He smiled as the first false Terran fleet arrived. Fire. His cannons burned them from the sky, but they weren't real. They were decoys. Ghosts. The eclipse. Prime had already landed. Underground. Beneath the ruins. Old Terran tunnels still existed. Dorian led a squad of elites through them. Lyra, Rel, and a dozen others. Silent. Focused. They passed old walls with Terran flags still burned into stone. Names of lost heroes. Places long erased. It was more than a battlefield. It was a graveyard. And they were the last survivors. Rel paused. Sir, something's wrong. From the walls, shadows moved. Not men. Not aliens. Machines. Terra. And tech twisted and turned into something evil. Shadow sentinels. No one shoot, Dorian said. They respond to sound. They crept past, but one soldier stepped wrong. A metal shard snapped. The machines turned. Screams. Dorian shouted, run! Half the squad turned to fight. Lyra pulled Dorian ahead. We're too close. Keep moving. Behind them, gunfire lit up the tunnel. Explosions. Pain. But Dorian kept going. He reached the final chamber. And found them. The prisoners still alive. Barely. One of them looked up. Kale. You came. Dorian knelt beside him. Always. Above. Ground. Scyther finally realized something was wrong. His army had destroyed 2 fleets. But no. Body. No Kale. A whisper came through his gums. Check the tomb. His eyes widened. No. As Dorian and his team began lifting prisoners, alarms blared. The tomb doors slammed shut. Gas began to hiss. Poison. Double quotes. No. Lyra yelled. They're sealing us in. Dorian looked up. Then he smiled. He tapped his cone. Revenant. Activate. In space, a dormant Terran satellite blinked awake. It sent a code to the Eclipse Prime, which broadcast it. Code the enemy hadn't heard in 300 years. Phoenix Protocol. Suddenly, all Terran AI systems hidden across the sector woke up. Towers exploded. Enemy drones turned on each other. Every sleeper system. Now a weapon. The real Terran army had just joined the fight. Outside, Terran ships dropped from stealth. Every decoy had been a trap. Now the real fleet arrived. With allies. Alien races once afraid to fight had joined in. The sky burned with light. And Dorian's voice echoed through every comm. You tried to end us, but we are still here. And we are coming. For you. Hook. The galaxy watched. From burning colonies to silent moons. From hidden rebel bunkers to enemy war rooms. Everyone saw the signal. A single Terran voice, once thought dead, now thundered across every channel. This is Captain Dorian. Kale, 3 centuries ago, you tried to erase us. But humanity remembers. And we have returned. Above the ruined world, the final battle had begun. The Terran fleet, led by the Eclipse Prime, pushed through the enemy blockade. Human warships, once rusted and forgotten, now fought with fire in their engines and fury in their guns. Allied, alien ships joined the charge of Alari Sunblades, Drenari needle cruisers, even the broken rebels from the Rim. For the first time in generations, the stars burned with hope. Underground, Dorian carried the last injured prisoner on his back as gas filled the tomb. His armor cracked. His breath grew shallow, but he didn't stop. Lyra and Rel fired at the sealed exit. Again and again. Nothing moved. No way out, Rel shouted. Yes, Dorian said, looking up. There is. He tapped his wrist. Phoenix override. Final. Command. High above, the AI inside Eclipse Prime paused. Warning, this will expose core systems and AI memory. Dorian's voice came calmly. Do it. The ship responded. A column of burning plasma exploded downward, cutting through rock, metal, and history. Seconds later, the stone above Dorian's squad melted away. Sunlight, real sunlight, hit their faces for the first time in hours. A rescue. Shuttle descended and pulled them all aboard. Lyra turned to Dorian. You could have died. He smiled, weak but steady. Wouldn't be the first time. In orbit, the enemy flagship, the Dread Rain, gathered its remaining forces. Inside, Sither roared. End them now. Fire everything? Missiles screamed toward the Eclipse Prime. Too many, too fast. Dorian, now back aboard, whispered one word. Now. The AI responded. Eclipse protocol complete. Suddenly, hidden Terran satellites around the planet activated and bent spacetime. Missiles warped, turned, and struck the Dread Rain instead. The explosion was seen across 3 systems. As the smoke cleared. Silence returned to space. Then cheers. Thousands of voices across hundreds of ships roared in joy. Humanity had returned not to survive, but to lead. On the bridge, Lyra sat quietly beside Dorian. You know, she said, you could have stayed in that cryopod. Never returned. Never fought again. Dorian stared out at the stars. I didn't survive 300 years to watch the galaxy fall from the shadows. She smiled. What now? He stood. Now we rebuild. We gather every broken piece of the old world. And we build something better. He turned to the holomap. We are Terrans. We don't run. We rise. Weeks later, a new Terran banner was raised on the remains of the old Earth colony of Varnic. The base would become the first stronghold of the new Terran Union, not an empire, not a kingdom, but a promise. All species were welcome, but all enemies were warned. Humanity remembers, humanity defends, and if darkness rises again, Captain Dorian Kale will answer. Asterisk.